The outpost on Kryn 7 wasn't supposed to be eventful. It was a routine diplomatic mission, humanity's newest attempt to establish peaceful relations with the Threxian Coalition, a collection of predator species who viewed most galactic races as either prey or annoyances. Lieutenant Arya Voss had been assigned to the security detail, which mostly meant standing around looking professional while ambassadors exchanged pleasantries that neither side truly believed. She hadn't expected to become the afternoon's entertainment. The incident began in the observation courtyard, where Threxian younglings were being showcased to the human delegation. The Coalition took pride in their offspring, miniature versions of their apex predator parents complete with razor-sharp teeth, retractable claws, and an instinct to test everything with their mouths. The human diplomats smiled politely, keeping a respectful distance while the Threxian hosts purred with parental pride. Arya stood at attention near the perimeter, her tactical jacket zipped up against Kryn 7's perpetual wind. She watched the proceedings with the practiced boredom of someone who had stood guard through countless similar events. Her hand rested casually near her sidearm, not that she expected to need it. But protocol was protocol. That's when Tech decided to make his move. The cub was small by Threxian standards, barely reaching Arya's knee, with mottled gray fur and oversized paws he hadn't quite grown into, his amber eyes fixed on the strange bipedal creature standing so still, so temptingly close to the crowd. While the other younglings wrestled and played among themselves, Tech's predatory instincts locked onto a new target. He approached with the exaggerated stealth of a juvenile hunter, tail twitching, haunches wiggling as he prepared to pounce. The adult Threxians noticed but didn't intervene. Testing boundaries was how their young learned. The human delegation remained oblivious, focused on the formal presentations. Arya's peripheral vision caught movement, but she maintained her professional stance. She'd been briefed on Threxian behavior. Don't show fear. Don't make sudden movements. Let them establish dominance in small ways to avoid larger conflicts. Tech launched himself with a tiny roar that would have been adorable if it weren't attached to genuine predatory enthusiasm. His jaws clamped down on the hem of Arya's jacket with surprising force, needle-sharp teeth finding purchase in the reinforced fabric. He shook his head vigorously, growling in a high-pitched attempt at intimidation. The human lieutenant looked down at the creature dangling from her clothing. For a moment, she considered the appropriate protocol. Shake him off? Call for assistance? Deploy some kind of non-lethal deterrent? Instead, Arya simply straightened her posture, lifted her arm, and continued standing at attention. With 30 pounds of predator cub now suspended in mid-air, still clamped determinedly to her jacket, looking increasingly confused about how his ambush had gone so wrong. The first laugh came from Ambassador Korvik, a scarred Threxian veteran whose species didn't typically display humor. It started as a rumbling chuckle deep in his chest, then erupted into a full-throated roar of amusement. Within seconds, the entire courtyard, Threxian and human alike, dissolved into laughter. Tech hung there, jaws still locked, too stubborn or too proud to release his prize. His eyes darted around in confusion as the world tilted at an uncomfortable angle. His tail curled uncertainly. This wasn't how successful hunts were supposed to go. Arya maintained her stoic expression, though the corner of her mouth twitched. Should I requisition a new jacket, or does he come off with standard cleaning? She asked, her tone perfectly deadpan. This triggered a fresh wave of laughter. Even the stern human commander Harrison was wiping tears from his eyes. The Threxian hosts exchanged approving glances. The human hadn't panicked, hadn't shown aggression, hadn't treated their offspring like a threat. She'd simply endured. With humor. Lieutenant Voss demonstrates admirable composure, Korvik rumbled, still chuckling. The young one has selected a worthy opponent. Opponent might be generous, Arya replied, glancing at the cub. I think he's realized he's won a prize he can't carry. Tech's mother, a imposing Threxian warrior named Shera, approached with maternal exasperation written across her features. She made a clicking sound, and the cub finally released his grip, dropping to the ground with an undignified tumble. He sat there, looking between his mother and the tall human, apparently trying to figure out where his glorious hunt had gone sideways. Shera examined the jacket with professional interest. Reinforced synthetic weave, military grade. She looked at Arya with newfound respect. Your people armor, even your clothing. We've learned to prepare for unexpected situations, Arya said, inspecting the tiny puncture marks in her hem. Though I admit dangled by determined cub wasn't in this morning's threat assessment. The tension that had pervaded the diplomatic mission for 3 days evaporated in that courtyard. Human and Threxian personnel began mixing more freely, sharing stories and observations. Tech became an instant celebrity, repeatedly attempting to recreate his famous achievement with other humans, only to be thwarted each time by patient soldiers who simply lifted him off the ground mid-bite. Later that evening, as the formal negotiations concluded with unprecedented success, Ambassador Korvik approached Arya at the departure ceremony. "Your species confuses us, Lieutenant," he admitted. "We expected your warriors to be harder, more rigid." "We can be," Arya assured him. "But we've learned something important in our history. Sometimes the strongest response isn't to fight back. Sometimes it's to stand firm, endure, and find the humor in chaos." Korvik's tail swished thoughtfully. "Tech's mother wishes to gift you something." He gestured, and Shara approached carrying a small bundle of gray fur. "No," Arya said immediately, but she was already smiling. "It is decided," Shara declared. "Tech has chosen you. In Threxian tradition, a successful hunt bonds warrior to prey. Since you proved yourself neither prey nor opponent, he is confused. This is good. He will learn much from you." Arya looked down at the cub, who gazed back with those oversized amber eyes, tail wagging uncertainly. She sighed the sigh of every soldier who knew they were about to accept a responsibility they hadn't asked for, but couldn't refuse. "Does he at least come with instructions? Feed him. Train him. Try not to let him bite important people." Shara's expression softened into what might have been a smile. "And, Lieutenant, thank you for not hurting him. Not all species would show such restraint." Arya boarded the transport, ship with Tech tucked under one arm already, chewing contentedly on her spare jacket. She reflected on humanity's strange position in the galaxy. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or most advanced species, but they had something others found remarkable: the ability to be dangerous when necessary, gentle when possible, and to laugh at the absurdity of finding themselves suspended between both states by a determined predator cub. Behind her, she could still hear the laughter echoing across Kryn-7's courtyard, the sound of barriers breaking down through the universal language of shared absurdity. Maybe that was humanity's real strength, not their weapons or their resilience, but their stubborn insistence on finding common ground, even if that ground was covered in tiny teeth marks and thoroughly soaked in chaos. Tech yawned, showing off his impressive dental collection, then curled against her tactical vest and fell asleep. "Welcome to humanity, little predator," Arya whispered. "Try not to bite anyone important."